Hello, welcome back to another video tutorial here at GeekatPlay Studios. My name is Gary Miller. In this tutorial I want to cover using the vanishing point filter in Adobe Photoshop CS4. Now I've got this very simple scene of a fence here at an angle, and if you know anything about vanishing points, then you know that things further away from the camera get smaller and in size. Well, I've got this picture of this thug here, and I want to apply him onto my fence, but in the manner in which I imported him, he is square to the camera, to my page, but he's not square onto my fence. As a result, he does not blend well with his background. Now this image here I got from official PSDs.com. They've got just hundreds of cool artwork. Here's just an example of one. I downloaded it and I'm using it in this scene, and I think all of them are licensed to the public domain, and they are all on their own layer without a background, so that makes it really nice if you want to use it in another image. And what's also nice is you don't have to register, and in order to download anything, just click on what you want and download it. So I got that at officialpsds.com. So here's my little guy. What I want to do is put him onto my wall and have him adhere or conform to the same perspective as my wall. So I think first thing I'm going to do is just make him more like a poster. So I'm just going to copy him, come up to the image, adjustments, and threshold. And now I will choose, let me see, I guess I like darken. Let's see what other options I have. I think I'll go with darken, and I will take that and apply. First I want to lock the transparency of that, and I'll apply a little bit of Gaussian blur to that. Okay, that looks good. And merge it to my background layer. Now it looks more like wall art than a photo. Now, to apply perspective, you could easily come up here to hold down Control and then press the T button, right click and choose perspective, and you can adjust the perspective of him, and then you'll hit enter. But if you look at him, that doesn't work. Look at the bottom edge of him does not conform to the same, is not parallel to the bottom of my fence, and the top of him doesn't appear to be parallel to the top of my fence. So the free transform and perspective works on some things, but it's not going to work in this case. So we're going to need to use the vanishing point filter right here. And in order to get things set up to use the vanishing point filter, there are a few things we need to do. First thing, I want to hold down my Control key, and I want to click on this little box here, which will create a selection of him, as you see by all the marching ants. Now what I want to do is copy him to my clipboard. So I'm going to come up here to Edit and Copy. Now all of this information of this thug here is copied to my clipboard. So I'm going to Control D to deselect him. I don't need that selection anymore. I'm going to create a new layer, because the transform that I'm going to do on him, I want it to be on its own separate layer. That way if I screw something up, I want to make some changes, I have my original right here. So I've copied him to the clipboard. I've got my own separate layer. I'm going to come up here to Filter and Vanishing Point. I'm just going to take that one and move it right off into the background because I don't want to use that old one. Let me adjust this window to fit my recording settings here. Okay, so this is our scene, and what I need to do is back out of this. I don't need it to be quite so zoomed in. This is my wall, and I need him to conform to the same perspective in my image as the wall. So what I want to do is I want to come up here to this second icon right here, which if you hover over it, it says Create Plane. Now this will enable me to create a virtual plane that Photoshop will use to apply our image to. So I'm going to come up here to the top left, or I could start anywhere in my image, but I'm going to come up here into the top left, and I'm going to click, and now it places a little point right up here, and it will allow me to come down here, create another edge, click there, and I will click here. Now notice that bottom line parallel to the bottom edge of my fence. And now I will come up here and click again. Now unfortunately you cannot hold down the shift key and constrain this to a vertical movement. So you kind of got to pay attention and be precise. You don't want your line to be out there like that. You want it to come up vertically. And that looks good. And I will click again. Let me zoom out just one more level. Now this is the 3D perspective plane that it has created. I'm going to come up here to the Edit Plane tool, and I can move it all around. And notice it gets smaller as I move it further away from its original location, because it is following the perspective that I have told it to follow when I created this mesh plane. And because it's in the edit mode, I can stretch it out and use these little control points to stretch it out and deform it in the typical manner that we're accustomed to. But I want it to go right there. Now what I want to do is I want to project this image onto this plane. Now recall earlier we hit Control C or Edit and Copy, and we copied this guy to our clipboard. So what I want to do now is paste him, and I'm going to do that by holding down Control and hit the V button. And this is a picture of my guy. Now watch what happens when I drag him over my vanishing point or over my perspective plane here. He automatically conforms to this vanishing point. And notice the bottom of him is parallel to the bottom of my fence, and the top of him is parallel to the top. So we have the absolute correct and perfect proportions and perspective of this guy. The only thing is, now he is a little bit too big. So what I want to do is I want to scale him down a little bit. So I'm going to come over here and scale him down. I guess I could make him a little taller, so because I want him to fit in here. And I want him to be right there in the corner. Now, if you look at him, the edge of this image is right here along this dotted line. Let's say, for the sake of argument, that I don't want all of him displayed in here. Let's say I want this much of him displayed on my fence. I don't want any of this I want to cut all that off. It's very simple. Just move him where you want, and it automatically masks or cuts off the area that is outside of my vanishing point. So I can very easily adjust him far more to a far greater degree than using the Control T and then using perspective as I demonstrated earlier. Okay, I'm happy with him right there. I'm going to click OK. It's going to do its work. Now let's move over here, and this is our little man. And he conforms perfectly to the perspective of our fence. Now let's go and do one more thing. I'm going to come over here and hit the text tool, and let's just type in hello. And that's a little small. Maybe I'll want to increase the size of it a little bit more. Okay, that's good. Okay, so our little guy has a nice friendly message. Well, if you look at it, it once again does not conform to the vanishing point or the perspective of our fence, so we're going to need to go and do the exact same thing with this as we did with our little thug guy. So I'm going to hold down Control and click on the T there, come up here to Edit, Copy, Control D to deselect, create a new layer, come up here to Filter and Vanishing Point. Now it retains the vanishing point from our previous session with it, and we could leave it here, but I'll just move it over a little bit. And I'm going to hit Control V to paste our friendly greeting in here, and it immediately pops to its proper perspective as it fits inside this vanishing point plane. But it is a little large, so I will need to do some scaling here so it fits. And again, this is on its own separate layer, so wherever we position it here, we're not committed to it. We can always do some more adjusting in Photoshop. So I'm happy with that. Let's hit OK. And I think I'll cover up Killa and make something a little bit more friendly. So this is using the vanishing point filter here in Photoshop. There is one other thing. If you create a new layer, vanishing point, come over here and use your pin tool, use your eyedropper, and you can choose whatever color you want. Come back to the pin. I think I'll bring the hardness all the way up, maybe reduce it a little bit, and let's put I love mom. You can also use the vanishing point filter and apply it to anything that you want to paint on it. Admittedly, when I wrote this, I didn't do it following the vanishing point, and that's a mistake on my part. What would work better is if I can hold down Control, create a selection from that, Edit, Copy, Control D to deselect, a new layer, Filter, Vanishing Point, and let's hit Control V. And let's move him right over here where he belongs. Now it follows the vanishing point, so there's a big difference. When I wrote this, I was not thinking about doing it in the vanishing point. So I'm happy with that. Click OK. And then we have him on his own layer. Let's come back to the thug here and change him to overlay. Maybe want to duplicate him twice. There we are. Let's come over here to I love mom, overlay, And hello, change that to overlay. Let's see what soft light will give us. Or hard light. No, vivid. No, I think we'll come over here to overlay. And yeah, we want to cover up Killa. Okay, let's zoom in here and see what we have achieved. Everything follows the vanishing point. It fits. The perspective is spot on. And you know, if you don't have 3D texturing tools that you can create your own models and texture them, this is a good way to use a model that is already created and customize it using the vanishing point filter once you have rendered an image. So that's the vanishing point filter here in Photoshop, and that's the end of this tutorial. Thanks for watching here at GeekatPlay Studios. My name's Gary Miller. Have a good day.